Witcher, 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 there's fish people drowning our sheep in the river!
Sounds like drowners. Gonna need spicy mayo.
Okay.
Oil my blade. Witcher magic for every occasion. Killing monsters is what I do.
Okay, can you hurry?
Witcher! A vampire ate my mom!
A Dracula needs garlic butter.
And I guess bringing in a new White Wolf at this point in the season, a bold move and a tall order for Liam.
And of course, he wanted to honor the character that had already been set up, because he knows that he's stepping into a role. But at the same time, he wanted to make sure that his performance was authentic, that it felt like him, that he wasn't playing and mimicking anything.
I'm the most annoying guy on set, because I'm saying, excuse me, you do realize that this should be happening, and they wouldn't do that, and you haven't read this, that means this would be impossible. And everyone's just going, Henry, just shut up and do the thing. And I'm like, I don't want to do the thing because he wouldn't do it this way, and he can do it.
I think that's just so unfair to the guy. It is. This show was going down the shitter for years. People were hating this show for years. Are we really gonna blame everything and scapegoat this guy? Well, think about it. If the show was so great, why did the first guy leave? It's so unfair.
I have myself and my team out making great content and acquiring great content, but if 1 out of 10 times you push play, it didn't work, we'd be toast.
Way back in 2019, it was and there were more than a few outlets and fans.
I don't know why Netflix would have even continued with it, because like it's only going to damage their brand and make them look bad. Like you probably should be paying money to not have it shown.
Netflix's Q2 report came out, and apparently they lost 1 million subscribers in the second quarter of this year, which we already saw that at the beginning of the year, they lost 200,000. The next month, they lost another couple 100,000, and they had projected that they were going to lose a couple million over the next few months.
Saying that possible, actually releasing the show. And let's just
I don't know why they released it. They should have just canceled it. That's fine. But what I'm saying is that a lot of people obviously don't like this type of content.
I can make whatever I want. I've got him on a farm milking people. I'm gonna send him to the ladies with the red bonnets on. Because everyone can have their version. Everyone shouldn't. Everyone doesn't matter enough to have their version. What matters is the millions upon millions of people which have bought the games, and they deserve to be represented. Lauren doesn't. Lauren's irrelevant. I'm not sure why Lauren's the showrunner. She already scared off the best asset that the series has. Getting rid of Henry Cavill and keeping Lauren would be like losing a Wagyu steak and having it replaced with a carrot. I mean, sure, both.
When they announced that Henry Cavill was leaving the show to be replaced by Liam Hemsworth, and let's face it, the show was already dead and buried in the dirt because of the actions of the showrunner and the writers and the people at Netflix that control the show. Henry Cavill warned everybody. Henry Cavill argued with them. Henry Cavill made it very clear that he was not happy with how they portrayed his character and the entire universe within The Witcher because it went against the books and it went against the games. They were not following the lore, and he knew what fans wanted. That's why he fucking left.
Did Henry Cavill just do the absolute impossible? After months of dignified, bone-deep silence, the man who was once the perfect embodiment of Geralt or Rivia finally spoke out. And it wasn't a PR-vetted statement. It was a direct, calculated response aimed squarely at the creative crew behind The Witcher Season 4. The same people who replaced him and, as many argue, reshaped the story he fought so hard to protect. This happened in the immediate, white-hot wake of South Park tearing the entire franchise apart on national television.
My job? Kill monsters. Get coin. Use coin on McDonald's app. Get points. Use points to get free McChicken. Only 1,500 points. Every dollar spent is 100 points. Constant BOGOs. I always leave with a free McChicken. It's like I'm stealing from them.
Stealing? You're a thief. Lemon pepper. To agree with the responsibility of that lays at the feet of one woman, the aforementioned Lauren Schmidt-Hissrich, who has finally gotten everything she wanted, complete control of an epic fantasy series on Netflix without the shackles of Henry Cavill.
Turning a fantasy epic into a global joke. That parody was the match. Cavill's response was the explosion. You know your project has crossed the line from beloved franchise to cultural punchline when South Park dedicates an entire savage episode to your downfall. The timing was brutal. The Witcher Season 4 hadn't even dropped, but the wounds of Cavill's exit were still fresh. The episode, rumored to be titled The Glitcher, Rise of the Algorithm, was not a jab. It was a character assassination of corporate Hollywood. In it, a Cavill lookalike, Geraldo of Trivia, is replaced mid-scene by a clueless actor. But the line that broke the internet? It's when the new Geralt asks for his motivation, and the showrunner figure replies, stone-faced, "Your motivation is diversity metrics and global reach, Geralt." That one line, just 7 words, was the spark.
Apparently, The Witcher 4 is, well, you know, so bad it got cooked. It did. It got completely cooked. It's totally dead.
Siri, are you here?
Within hours, millions of fans declared that South Park had said what they'd been screaming for years. The creators had lost the plot, chasing market trends over storytelling soul. Clips racked up views faster than Netflix could pull them down. People weren't just laughing, they were furious that a beloved epic had been reduced to a corporate checkbox project. One commenter said it perfectly. South Park did more justice to Sapkowski's world in 20 minutes than Netflix did in 3 seasons. But the comedy wasn't the real story. It was simply the trigger for the confrontation no one saw coming. As the memes and the outrage surged, reports claim Henry Cavill was tagged repeatedly, a digital call to arms for the silent hero. Though he stayed quiet for a couple of days, something massive was brewing behind the scenes. Then, a single, devastating quote circulated from a private industry dinner. When asked what he thought of the South Park roast, Cavill's alleged response was simple. Sometimes truth comes from parody. That was it. The internet broke. Fans instantly interpreted it as a direct, cold steel shot at showrunner Lauren Schmidt-Hissrich and the Netflix crew. According to multiple insiders, some even reportedly working within Netflix's production sphere, Cavill then arranged a private, unannounced meeting with several key players for the upcoming season. Imagine the scene, a high-rise, glass-walled conference room in Netflix's London office. The room that once hosted budget meetings and premiere briefings was now reportedly toxic with tension. LSH sits across the table from Cavill, flanked by 2 reportedly nervous senior executives from the streaming content division. The atmosphere was pure frost. Cavill, by all accounts, didn't walk in to fight. He walked in to deliver a painful truth. One insider described it bluntly. He wasn't yelling, he didn't need to. Every word he said hit like a hammer. Cavill reportedly began by using the South Park parody itself as his opening evidence. He didn't mock the show, he used its success to frame his argument, asking the fundamental question, why did you lose faith in the story that made this world what it is? LSH allegedly offered her standard defense, that the show needed to evolve, to reach a broader, more global audience, and that the books were too dense and niche for modern viewers. This is where the alleged confrontation peaked. Cavill is said to have leaned forward, his voice reportedly low and intense, and dismantled her entire defense. He called out specific creative choices, alleging they stripped Geralt of his philosophical depth, reducing him from a moral compass to just a monster killer who likes chicken sandwiches, a direct reference to the cartoon. He reportedly pressed them on the irony of trying to build a rival to Game of Thrones by dumbing down the complex source material, arguing that the success of every other major fantasy franchise proves the audience craves depth and fidelity. Then he delivered the crippling blow, reportedly stating, "You didn't broaden the audience, you lost the one that mattered." People close to the meeting suggest he didn't attack anyone personally, but instead called out the creative choices that stripped the books of their depth and replaced storytelling with an obsession with chasing trends and filling metrics. The silence after that line was reportedly deafening. Reports claim the 2 executives looked physically uncomfortable, avoiding eye contact with the showrunner. One witness claimed that LSH looked visibly ashen by the time the meeting was over, dressed down by the very character she'd tried to replace. The private confrontation, which was meant to be a quiet industry moment, had instead become a devastating moment of clarity, confirming every fan's darkest suspicion. That silence in the boardroom was only the beginning, because the fallout immediately shifted to Netflix's bottom line. When the story of Henry Cavill's confrontation leaked, quickly becoming the most discussed rumor in the franchise's history, the initial fan controversy morphed into a full-scale revolt. Suddenly, LSH was the center of a firestorm that made the South Park parody look tame. Hashtags like Fire Lauren and Save the Witcher trended globally for days. The court of public opinion had delivered a decisive verdict. Lauren damned The Witcher. The worst part? The outrage wasn't just venting. It hit Netflix right where it hurt, their corporate credibility. Inside Netflix, the mood shifted from annoyance to outright terror overnight. What started as another social media spat suddenly looked like a genuine financial crisis. Insiders claim that the internal viewership projections for The Witcher Season 4 collapsed, reportedly dropping by double digits, a metric that sends shivers down the spine of every streaming executive. Investors began calling, demanding explanations for why a multi-million-dollar flagship franchise was now being openly mocked by pop culture and rejected by its core audience. The marketing teams were reportedly in a complete shitstorm, unable to push out a single promotional image without the comment section instantly turning into a hostile, unified anti-Netflix rally. One senior source described the executive reaction bluntly. They didn't realize how much the audience still cared about Cavill until South Park roasted them. It was like being roasted on live TV by your own stockholders. Netflix had poured fortunes into building The Witcher as their next major fantasy brand, a competitor to HBO's Epics. But now the brand was toxic, a viral meme symbolizing everything wrong with modern, creatively diluted television. Clips of the parody were going viral faster than the legal team could file copyright claims, and fans weren't just laughing, they were unsubscribing. One widely shared tweet, racking up hundreds of thousands of likes, read, "Netflix turned The Witcher into a meme. Guess I'll cancel my sub and rewatch Cavill seasons on loop." Behind the scenes, the PR team scrambled for damage control. They pushed out vague statements about creative transitions and fresh directions, but the internet wasn't buying it. Every post was instantly flooded with replies like "Bring back Cavill" or "Apologize to the fans." There were even loud whispers, completely unconfirmed but widely discussed, that Netflix considered delaying the release of Season 4 entirely to allow for emergency rapid rewrites, hoping to patch the massive holes that Confrontation and the cartoon had exposed. Some reports hinted at desperate attempts to restore specific character arcs and tone before the next major trailer drop. But the core problem wasn't fixable with a rewrite. It was the total erosion of trust. Fans didn't trust the creators, and after the South Park episode, they didn't even trust Netflix to understand why the franchise was loved in the first place. LSH, according to multiple insider reports, was told to lay severely low and avoid all interviews. She reportedly wanted to publicly defend her creative vision, but was strongly advised that doing so would only reignite the controversy, prolonging the crisis. So she went quiet. And that silence, of course, was instantly weaponized, turning her into the ultimate villain, the out-of-touch executive who silenced the principled star and lost the world she was trusted to build. The narrative was inescapable. Cavill was the wronged hero, and Netflix was in a desperate, expensive scramble. This turmoil, however, only served to amplify Cavill's growing legend, setting the stage for his final, massive move. As the chaos raged, Henry Cavill, without uttering another new word, continued to dominate the conversation. Fans didn't need him to speak. They were sharing his old interviews, pulling out clips from years ago where he discussed fighting for the lore and respecting Andrzej Sapkowski's vision. One particular quote went viral, a moment where he said, "I've always believed you should serve the story, not yourself." That line hit different now. It wasn't just a nice soundbite. It was a quiet declaration of everything The Witcher had lost since his departure. Fans began calling him the true Witcher, and his principled stand, the Cavill Code. Memes flooded every platform comparing his mythic intense Geralt with the early, less than flattering promotional shots of his replacement. The difference was night and day, elevating Cavill's image from just an actor to a rare Hollywood figure who stood by his convictions. People missed more than his performance. They missed the integrity he represented. Entertainment journalists who had once dismissed the controversy were now publishing think pieces with titles like, "Was Henry Cavill right about The Witcher all along?" His silence, his calm dignity, and his refusal to descend into bitterness became a powerful part of his mythos. This is what truly terrified Netflix. While their version of The Witcher was struggling to survive, Henry Cavill's image, the version fans remembered and loved, was becoming immortal. It was about trust, and that's something no amount of budget or PR spin can buy back. But the ultimate vindication wasn't silence. It was a final, stunning announcement that proved he hadn't just left one project, he was building a superior one.
Cavill's final, masterful move wasn't a press release. It was an act of pure cinematic vindication. The timing was tactical. A strategic masterstroke delivered precisely when Netflix was at its most vulnerable, drowning in the PR fallout of the Confrontation and the South Park ridicule. At a quiet, high-profile gaming and film convention, a place that values lore and fidelity above all else, a journalist finally cornered him. The question was simple, but loaded. Would he ever return to the realm of fantasy? Cavill paused, his knowing, tight-lipped half-smile, the same one he gave Geralt's most frustrating clients, played across his face. And then he delivered the kill shot. "I never left it. I'm just finding a story that deserves the journey." That single, simple sentence exploded the internet. It was a clear, purposeful mission statement, instantly becoming a viral declaration of war against the creatively bankrupt decisions he had fought. But it was only the setup for the main event. Within the next 48 hours, the speculation crystallized into reality. Reports, initially quiet whispers from industry insiders, exploded into full-blown announcements. Cavill wasn't just acting in a new fantasy series, he was the executive producer and the creative force behind it. The project, rumored to be an adaptation of a deeply respected but often overlooked high fantasy series, sometimes referred to by the working title The Last Kingdoms, was being developed not by a streaming giant obsessed with metrics, but by a prestige production house with a commitment to pure cinematic quality. The choice of producer, reportedly a studio known for its fan-first approach and deep pockets, sent a clear message. This was a venture built on passion, not corporate mandate. The key difference was the promise. Where The Witcher promised a reimagining that cut corners and changed characters, Cavill's new project promised unwavering fidelity. The production budget was reportedly massive, but every dollar was allegedly earmarked for intricate, authentic costume design, practical creature effects that avoided cheap CGI, and a production methodology that gave the writers' room full autonomy, provided they adhered to the established world's lore. The entire creative team he assembled were almost exclusively veterans of the gaming community, deep fantasy lore experts, and authors who had publicly championed the original Witcher books, a deliberate and public middle finger to the writer's room he had left behind. The fan reaction was not just excitement, it was a flood of joyous, cathartic relief. They didn't just get their hero back, they got the guarantee that their passion would be respected. This wasn't just a new show, it was the birth of the anti-Witcher, a franchise built entirely on the foundation of Cavill's integrity. The collective energy of the fan base, the same energy that had been weaponized against Netflix, now galvanized around Cavill's vision. Pre-production updates and cryptic social media posts about the project were met with universal praise. Every comment was a direct comparison. This is what happens when you respect the source material. This is what Cavill fought for. The ultimate humiliation for Netflix came from the quiet corners of the industry. Reports from Hollywood legal circles alleged that their top brass, including the executives who had nervously watched the confrontation, were scrambling to understand how they had let their most valuable asset walk away and immediately become their most dangerous competitor. The fear wasn't just the loss of Cavill. It was the immediate, palpable realization that he was building the perfect alternative to their flailing, toxic IP. They had essentially funded their own nemesis, educating him on exactly how not to make a beloved fantasy show. The Witcher 4 was now perpetually trapped in a development hell of rewrites, executive panic, and plummeting morale, facing a hostile audience and an impossible comparison. Every day, the skepticism grew. No matter what promotional materials Netflix pushed out, even if they were creatively sound, the conversation always reverted to one fact. The true Geralt was gone, and he was using his power to build something better. And then the rumored teaser poster for The Last Kingdoms finally dropped. It was simple, stark, and utterly devastating. A silhouette of a lone warrior, undeniably Cavill, standing against a grim, fire-red sky. Beneath the title, in small, perfect letters, was the tagline that officially closed the book on the entire saga and validated every one of his choices. Respect the lore. It was the final nail in the coffin. Cavill hadn't just secured a new role, he had leveraged his integrity into a new dynasty, proving that in Hollywood, the biggest victory isn't getting paid, it's having the power to tell the story the way it was meant to be told. Netflix was left with an expensive, creatively compromised show and the eternal haunting question, what if they had just listened to the man who cared the most? In the end, South Park didn't just roast The Witcher. It created a cultural moment. It forced Hollywood executives and fans alike to ask one simple question. When did we stop respecting the story? The supreme irony is that it took a brutal 20-minute cartoon and a dignified years-long stand by one man to bring that truth back into the light. The fans won the war, proving that their collective voice can shake even the biggest streaming giant. Henry Cavill's refusal to compromise his passion didn't just cost him a major role, it turned him into a symbol of integrity and gave him the power to build the very fantasy world he believed in. So next time a corporate giant tries to substitute passion for a marketing strategy, remember this story. Because as Cavill proved, the real heroes aren't made in front of the cameras. They're made when no one's watching, standing by their principles. The lights may have dimmed on the Witcher we knew, but something infinitely more authentic is about to rise.